get out of the way.
Love it.
All right, ladies. Hey, congratulations for your film Blood, Sweat, and Cheer.
Hmm.
Thank
We
More
did
you.
it.
congratulations is going to be on Tubi pretty soon. How does it feel?
It feels like it was yesterday, but also feels like so long ago. I can't even remember making it, but it, like when I watch it, I'm like, oh, it feels like I was just on set. I think that happens a lot with films, though. You're so like you become a family so quickly, and then it kind of dissipates, and like you feel like they're still your family, but you haven't seen them in so long.
It's I guess it's different because Tammin and I we've been we've kept in touch and I've seen we've had a chance to connect after the filming, but it's quite a feat to make an entire film, shoot it through post, and it come out within less than a year. It's like kind of
Yeah.
a crazy timeline. So it does feel fast, but it also is nice to get the work out there and get a chance to do more in a year instead of some people spend years on one project and that's all they're doing. So yeah,
Mhm. Next one.
next one, let's go. I'm
Yeah.
ready. Yeah.
Now, Tracy, you wrote the story for this film, am I correct? No, you did
No, no,
not.
no. I didn't. Yeah, go ahead.
So tell us why you wanted to direct, this film, in particular, because we have cheerleading films before.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's so funny. This is a little known secret. I've actually, I've never cheerleaded, been a cheerleader. I was like, I never really, understood the seriousness of the sport, frankly, until I watched that great documentary called Cheers on Netflix. So it was interesting, when I initially, got the project, I read it was just in a direct offer and I read the script and I immediately was just like, yes, there's a complex, flawed woman at the center of this script who isn't exactly, more of a darker anti-hero type. And that was really intriguing to me. That's something I always look for in the projects I'm directing. And it had this coming of age element. I mean, obviously our character is an adult, but in a way sort of regressing to that time in her life. So it hit on a couple points for me, and obviously a lot of fun and campy comedy and a dark comedy. I mean, I hadn't directed a dark comedy before. I've done comedy, I've done drama, I've done dramedy, romantic comedy, but never a dark comedy. So this was a great opportunity to do something fun and different for me. So
Wow, Tammin, I mean, I have to say your performance is wonderful, but for an adult, why would you take this challenge? Because there are challenges of this film on so many levels for an actor.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was easy for me to in some way play high school because I've always had like facial features that even as I get older, you get wrinkles and all those things. But I have certain facial features which lends itself more to like a younger type looking face. That doesn't mean I don't have all the creases. So I felt like we could fake it. And I feel like when I watched the movie, it's not too far fetched. You had to be careful about that, because I played characters in high school for many years, but as I get older, you think, oh my goodness, how realistic is this going to be? So I feel like we did pull it off. For me, I have two small children. I know what it's like to feel like you're losing them. My eldest is 9. She's now getting to a stage of her life where she's wanting to go into the world by herself. So I understand what this character feels like. I've had a lot of therapy in my life, so I realize that, I'm not this character, nor would I ever be. But imagine a woman who never got to her true potential, who was never good enough, who was never told she was worthy of anything. Then she has a daughter who excels. What would that look like? What would it look like when you feel like you're losing your daughter, but also you're losing yourself with that? Because she's now, her daughter's become her. What would someone do to, how far would they go to relive their youth and to do it all over again? So so many different layers. I think you can just play what's on the page. And I think sometimes the trap is saying, well, it's a this film or it's a Tubi film or it doesn't matter. But for me, everything I've ever done matters. And it's trying to find the elements within a character that are vulnerable and that you can relate to in some ways, even though she's so far-fetched.
I mean, it is also a compliment of your own youthfulness, you know. Just by looking at you through Zoom, we still can't guess your age.
Oh,
So
good. I got wrinkles. You see them?
there we go, right?
Maybe it's because it's a little fuzzy, but yeah.
Traci, now this story comes off, you know, like pages of headlines. You know, this people can easily see this happening in real life, and it has happened. You know, adults imitating kids. I think that just happened just recently,
Yes, it did.
just a few months ago. How do you find the dark comedy into something like this?
Yeah, it was so fascinating to me. It went after reading the script that it had actually happened, to your point, a number of times, and so it was definitely inspired by these stories of people, women going back to high school, impersonating, their daughter's name or however it's, disguise. And yeah, I mean, the dark comedy comes from really the situations that we put these characters in, and so the script really lended itself to these moments that were very dark, and she's wrestling with her like mortality and youth and all these things, but it's so over the top in the way that it's executed, and that was kind of where the comedy came into play. So it was I mean, I had a lot of fun reading these bizarre stories about these women who actually did get away with it, and I mean, they didn't hurt anybody, they just wanted a way to escape and fulfill a dream that they never had. And so yeah, the approach was just taking the material in the script and finding the tone through the performance, and a lot, to Tammin's credit, a lot of that comedy you're talking about and the darkness is from her inner life as a character. So
Tammin, at the end of the day, playing you know, this character, how do you shut off that mindset? I mean, she is a little bit on the edge.
Yeah. Look, I knew it was
yeah.
gonna, I knew it was gonna cost me something. When I worked with my acting coach through every scene, she's like, if you don't come home at the end of the day and feel completely beaten up, then you're not doing a good job. Because even you might not be able to tell, but you'll be able to feel something, even through the funny elements, there's something going on. And for me, I can't just fake that. Like there has to be some level of pain or longing or desperation. Like it has to come from somewhere, even the over the top moments. So my acting coach was just like, if you don't feel broken by the end of this movie, then then you didn't do a good job. And at the end of this movie, I haven't had a migraine, knock on wood, for years. And at the end of this movie, like the next day, I woke up and had the biggest migraine I've ever had. And as much as the old me would have been like, I can't believe I got a migraine, the new me was like, I'm so glad I pushed myself so far that my body responded with that, which means that I did do my job. It's hard as an actor because sometimes you watch the cut and you never feel as the pain that you felt on when you're actually shooting it. So like you always get a little like, oh, I don't know if anyone else will see it, but I know that I felt it when I was shooting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Traci, you mentioned earlier you were never a cheerleader yourself. How did you handle the choreography, you know, in this film?
Yeah, so even though I wasn't a cheerleader, I did do dance growing up. Little when I think my mom has VHS tapes of me when I was like 2, tap dancing. Obviously, that was a long time ago, but dance has always been a part of my life, and I watched a lot of musicals growing up. So I had a sensibility about, just kind of the storytelling I wanted to tell through the dance. But we were very fortunate. It was kind of an insane schedule in terms of, figuring out. We first how I handled the dance was I first picked the songs that they were going to dance to that were cleared, that were part of our music library, with Tubi's sort of what they have, different deals with different licensing companies. So that was the first step. And then after I picked the songs and edited them down to fit the 30, 60 seconds, however we needed for certain moments, then we brought in a choreographer local to Atlanta, and she was just incredible. And I kind of told her the points that we needed, because I don't want to spoil any specific moments, but there's some visual motifs that I wanted to build into the dance that you see twice when she's dancing, kind of like, is it in her head? Is it real? Is she imagining what's happening? And so that was something I spoke with the choreographer in terms of building into the choreography. And then Tammin, was killing herself after every day working with the choreographer on her time off, her days off, just like memorizing the dance and I was just so impressed. I did that while we were shooting. There was no like rehearsal period before, so it's crazy.
Tammin, could you discuss about going through that choreography yourself, the choreography training and all this kind of stuff? I mean, myself, I went through physical therapy, and I can't even stretch or even exercise every moment.
I know. I wish there was more dancing. I wish you could see more of the dancing, because I feel like I was like, oh my gosh, we did so much, and then you don't ever get to see a lot of it. But yeah, I love dancing in general, and I love it. And I haven't danced for a long time. So it was just nice to do it. And it was nice to challenge myself. I think is when you have kids, it's like you kind of lose a part of like that all or nothing sort of mentality. And at least for me, and because you're just like, oh, I'm tired, like I'm tired. Like the idea, like sometimes I just get home and I'm just like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to fight. I'm tired of fighting for something. So yeah, like to take this on, I really decided to just give it everything. And I feel like I do that with most of my films, but I think especially for this one, and I'm really proud of myself. I'm proud that I didn't let sometimes my exhaustion or the fact that I was away from my kids or all the other work that I still had sort of get in the way. So I'm proud that I was really focused on this.
Now, I couldn't recall. Were there a lot of stunts? When we
no, none. Oh, what? Wait, that's not true. There's one, right? There's two.
There's a couple but yeah, I mean, yes, there's a couple stunts in the film. In terms of for Tammin, they were different characters within the world, but she got bruises to prove it, man. You were crazy. You were just like, I was like, wow, like doing that routine over and getting on your knees over and over and over. I was like, oh my God.
Because you never know what they're going to show. See, that's the issue with filmmaking, is like, if someone said, okay, we're only going to show this shot, then you just have to give it your all for that. But you never know. Like sometimes you're like, okay, you give it all, and then they use the wide, and then you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't give it everything for the wide, and now that's the thing that everyone's watching. So you really have to give it all in all of them. That's what I've taken away from this film.
So I guess it's a relief that they didn't have to toss you in the air then.
I know. I thought they might. I probably would have done it. Why not? Anything for your art, right?
Everything for the art. Traci, this is technically still a high school like movie. Talk about bringing in a youthful cast into this film, because it is like those those Heathers, those Mean Girls. It all has to be the believable youth that just simply go into cliques and hate each other.
I mean, it was I knew I wanted to make the world feel believable in terms of going back. There's no secret that most high school movies cast people that are not in high school. And that's just for SAG and money and time. You can shoot longer, there's less restrictions. So, we wanted to cast up in support of the movie in terms of, somebody could be much older but look very younger. And we wanted to make sure it made sense for the world that Renee, Tammin's character, was living in. So it felt not only believable, but just cohesive. And so I worked with Lindsay Chang. She's an incredible casting director. And that was sort of the mentality going into the casting process, and looking for local talent in Atlanta that really brought something to each character. And it was, interestingly enough, to your point, very much my approach was very similar to Heather's, not only in the casting, but also their wardrobe. And, you know, each character had their own color palette. And it was just this very fun way of quickly identifying a visual motif, but also kind of their personality within a color palette. And so that was part of the casting process. And I had so much fun. It was very bizarre location scouting, like 15 high schools. I hadn't been back to a high school in forever. So I'm just standing here going, oh my gosh, these kids are so young. And yeah, so it was a fun process to kind of relive that experience as I was preparing and making the movie, for sure.
And sounds like, Tammin, you also had a certain enjoyment with working with a younger cast on this case.
Yeah, I mean, you never
feel
know.
like high school.
I know, you kind of think like, oh my goodness, how can I have nothing in common with any of them? But you realize like, so like, they're just such good kids. The girl that played my daughter, Monroe, she just had such a good head on her shoulders. And, you know, you just don't know what to expect. I've worked with a lot of people, because I've been in Hollywood for a very long time, that aren't like that. They're very, what's the word? My brain's not working. Entitled. They're very entitled, and they don't really see that other people are also doing their job, and it's a whole cohesive team that makes something work, you know. And I've been in situations where I'm like, this is not a it's a negative environment to be in, and it's hard to work in that. And it's very, it happens a lot, but not as often as it should, that it feels like it's a family and it feels like everyone's fighting for the same goal. And on this film, it really did feel like everyone had the best interest of the film at heart, and everyone in every department. And that doesn't normally happen, but when it does, it means that the film turns out well.
It was very special. Like, the family dynamic was undeniable, and everyone showed up. All these little characters that have these moments in the film, just they brought their A game. I mean, I think they elevated the work, you know, because of, you know, just us setting, you know, showing up, setting the tone, you know, not only myself and Tammin, but also our producers and our first AD, and just having heads of department who were just really good at their job. But at the end of the day,
it was so great. Yeah.
You just really, you wanted to like hang out with, because they were just good people.
We didn't though, but we wanted to. We're too tired.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple times.
We were tired.
Right. We were very tired. Recovering.
Well, let me start wrapping things up. I'm just going to throw in a fun question into our conversation. I know I'm going to start with Traci first. Traci, how many hats do you own? I could tell you love hats.
Yeah, she does. She really does love hats.
It's all over Instagram.
It's a problem. I have a hat wall. I'm not gonna. Yeah. I will admit to that. I don't actually know the answer. My guess is like 25. Probably 25 hats.
Oh my gosh! I didn't know you were that in love with hats.
I am. It's become a thing. So.
Well, that's your signature. And Tammin, I also have one last question for you. Do you miss the bangs?
Do I miss the bangs? I actually. Little funny, I don't know if you went too deep in your research about me, but I had a music career back in the day in Australia, and I released a couple records in Australia, and I had blonde bangs throughout that entire music era of me. And so it was very reminiscent of those times, and it was a lot of nostalgia having the bangs. Again, I was 15 years younger, but it was really fun and cool. I lived in London. I had a band. Like, I used to drink wine in the bathtub. Like, those are the days. Those are the days.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, you both had great experiences with Blood, Sweat, and Cheer. So thank you very much for carrying this conversation. Hopefully we get to do this again.
Terrific. Yeah,
thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you.